All right, YouTube, what is going on? Today, we are going to talk about Marco versus Yamato. That is a debate. That's not really a debate, but we're going to debate it today because a lot of people want to debate it. So let's talk about it because we're comparing someone who got stomped out by 2 commanders versus someone who took on Kaido for 11 chapters.
Very simple answer.
Alright, so starting off with Portrayal. Marco has a ton of experience, fighting since the days of Goldie Roger. He used to fight against the Roger Pirates all the time. He even went against them for like 3 days straight along with the Whitebeard Pirates. Marco does have a lot of experience. Pretty sure Marco's in his 40s. I think he's like 46 or maybe he's in his 30s. I forget how old he is exactly, but Marco is very old. He has a lot of experience as a pirate, being the right-hand man of Whitebeard. So when it comes to battle IQ and IQ in general, Marco does have that advantage over Yamato. However, to make it clear, Yamato is not without experience. She has been fighting Kaido ever since she was a child, and it forced her to develop Conqueror's Haki, knocking out people around her when she got scared. And now she has advanced Conqueror's Haki, so we don't know how long she's been using the advanced form. It could have been a long time because, again, what she showed against Kaido kind of proves that she's been using it for a long time because she's holding off against arguably the strongest character at that time, like for a long period of time. So that shows she does have good endurance, and she has good enough battle IQ to fight someone like Kaido. Now, of course, Conqueror's Haki is not the end-all be-all for a character, but I do believe that when you do possess advanced Conqueror's Haki, you are going to be among the strongest characters. And I do believe by the end of the series, Yamato will be one of the strongest characters in the series. I think she will follow in her father's footsteps, just not his mentality, but she will follow in his strength. So I do think she has a lot more potential than Marco. I think Marco, while he does have the, Phoenix fruit, so he does age kind of slow, and, he does kind of still have, I guess he does have room to grow. He could get stronger, more wise in his old age, but I don't think he has as much potential as Yamato does right now, so I do think Yamato does have that advantage over Marco. So if you look at the feats, this is where the biggest disparity between Marco and Yamato is. So going back to Marineford, if you look at Marco versus the Admirals, a lot of people will say that Marco is Admiral level, and he's actually not Admiral level at all, but he is not, I'm not going to say he's weak in front of the Admirals. He is somewhat of a challenge for the Admirals, but he is not Admiral level. The Marineford arc actually makes that clear. Now, some people will say he fought equally against the Admirals using the Vivre card, but the Vivre card does not come before the series. If you look at the actual manga, it is very clear that the Admirals are not trying their best against Marco. We see Marco land his first attack on Kizaru, and Kizaru makes a joke about the damage Marco's doing, and Marco himself acknowledges that Kizaru is actually lying and that he's not really doing much damage to Kizaru. And this makes sense because not only is, Kizaru an Admiral, he also has much better Haki than Marco. We know that Kizaru has advanced Ryo Haki, and there's a defensive state to that form of Haki, which we've seen the Admirals use. The Admirals use it to block Whitebeard, and we see Luffy try and use it against Big Mom. This is a very good defensive state of Haki, so I think that Kizaru, with his strong Haki, is able to withstand Marco's attacks pretty much easily. I don't think he had much of a challenge against Marco. We can even see this when he fights against Rayleigh, someone who we know is on Kizaru's level, because Kizaru actually got cut from Rayleigh, and he was trying way more. This might be the only time Kizaru has ever frowned. Think about this. Go through the entire story. What other point in the series has Kizaru ever not been smiling? Like, he pulled out a sword. I didn't even know he could make swords. He's never done that any other time. It's very obvious that Rayleigh is the toughest opponent Kizaru has ever fought. Marco is not equal to Rayleigh even in his old age, and therefore Marco was not really an equal to Kizaru. That is made pretty clear by the arc. And we have Marco against Ikiji, but that wasn't really like much of a battle. And then we have Marco versus Kainu. Again, not really much of a battle. Kizaru was really the only one Marco was really attacking the most. However, Marco does have an advantage with endurance, and that is why he's able to hold off for so long. And it's also why Kizaru put the Sea Prism cuffs on him, because Marco, again, he can hold people off for a long time because he has great endurance. So he doesn't actually have to 1v1 people and defeat them. All he has to do is hold people off, which is what he was doing for Whitebeard. We also know Jozu, who has great durability because of his diamond fruit, was doing the same thing. And he actually has more physical strength than Marco, so I would assume that his physical attack power is better than Marco's. We can also see this from Ikiji because Ikiji only bled from Jozu. Vista and Marco never made any of the Admirals bleed. So when it comes to Marco, one flaw that I notice about Marco is that he doesn't have too much attack power. When we're talking about characters like Yamato, the Admirals, and the Yonko, his attack power is not really on that level, and it's pretty obvious. We've also seen the Admirals go all out. We've seen what they can do to islands. They didn't do that at Marineford. So it's really obvious that they did not try the hardest against the commanders. And then we have the king and queen thing. So the only problem with this feat is it gets gassed way way too much. As I said before, Marco has the ability of regen, great amount of endurance and stamina, so he held off King and Queen for a long period of time. We also know that King has his magma form, and we know that Queen has his Vince Smoke abilities. Neither of them used their full power against Marco. That's number one. And number two, he did like no damage. Like we have to acknowledge that. They went on to have entire 1v1 fights after this. Marco did like nothing, and they put him in a corner. And just to put into perspective, Yamato fighting Kaido for 11 chapters is a lot tougher than fighting King and Queen. That's just not a debate, because we've seen how tough Kaido is. The combined power of King and Queen are not equal to Kaido at all. It's not even close, actually. So that's not like even comparable. Of course, Kaido is not Yamato. I'm not trying to make that argument, but I'm just trying to explain that if Marco can't even hold his own against Kaido, he's not in the same league as Yamato, right? Because it's not just about the special type of attack power. You also have to have the endurance and the durability to handle someone like Kaido. We've seen what he can do. He's knocking out like 3 supernova at the same time. If he went 5v1 and like they didn't go after Big Mom, he still would have won, right? Because this is before Luffy had advanced Conqueror's Haki, but all these guys are probably stronger than Marco, because we know Luffy for sure is stronger than Marco. Zoro is arguable, Law is arguable, Kid is arguable, Killer's not, but these 4 are definitely arguable to be stronger than Marco. Marco wouldn't actually stand a chance. It wasn't until Luffy unlocked advanced Conqueror's Haki that he could challenge him, and still got dropped, and then Yamato had to hold her own against Kaido, and she held off for longer than Luffy just did. There is no reality where Marco holds his own against Kaido. It just doesn't exist. So we're talking about someone who can't even seriously hurt an admiral versus Yamato, who slammed an admiral's head into the ground and he had to acknowledge her haki. She's even slammed Kaido's head into the ground before. She's done stuff like this. So I don't see Marco having the defense to handle Yamato, right? Because her attacks are effective on admirals. They're effective on Yonko. So when it comes to attack power, her attack power is way better than Marco's. If we talk about durability, she has a mythical zone just like Marco. So they both have mythical zones. It's pretty good, right? But she also has stronger haki, which does add to the durability aspect. I have made a video on that. If you want to watch my strongest haki video, you can watch that. But haki does increase your overall durability. That just makes sense, because stronger haki, stronger character, stronger durability, bada bing, bada boom. She can also create an ice body shield. So if you remember Naruto and Gaara's whole like sand shield defense, she's basically doing the same thing, except she's using ice. That is another layer of defense, right? And the only reason it doesn't look like much is because she's fighting Kaido, so he just one-shotted it and just got rid of it. Now, if we talk about endurance and stamina, this might be another scenario where people want to give the edge to Marco, but again, he doesn't have the edge either. So when we talk about Marco's regeneration, he only regenerates when he has enough stamina. If he's fighting someone who's too strong, he's not going to constantly regenerate. He's going to get beat down, as we can see from King and Queen. And nothing King and Queen have ever done is close to the power of Yamato. It's just not. For example, if Marco were fighting a first commander like King or Katakuri, he would have a great advantage in endurance, because these are people who are on Marco's level. But against someone like Kaido, he doesn't even have the defense to withstand Kaido's attacks. He would get bodied. Marco does not have the durability or the endurance to actually handle Yamato. He just doesn't. After everything we've seen from Yamato, there's no way Marco's on her level at all. It's just not even close. So hopefully, with all the things I've said in this video, you guys can agree with me. If you don't agree with me, drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. This is basically all I have to say for today. I think Marco vs Yamato would be a pretty good fight, but overall, I think Marco is just gonna get overwhelmed. She just has too much going for her. I don't think he's going to stand much of a chance. So yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace.